Hello children, I really feel august to come in front of you once again and represent a small topic that we are continuing with our tissue chapter. Whenever we talk about a living organism, we have a classical definition of cell, that is a structural and functional unit of life. Moving forward, in cell, we have a group of cell which is having a similar shape, size and structure and that performs a common function. We have tissues. Tissues, when we have a look around us, we are having animals and we are having plants. So we classify them as animal tissues and plant tissues. Earlier in our chapter, we have seen what are the different kinds of plant tissues and animal tissues. When we talk about a plant and an animal in an environment, when they are living, it's actually movement and the energy needs which will be differentiating the plant tissue and an animal tissue. We know how an animal is. An animal is mobile, while how a plant is stationary, anchored to a substratum, anchored to a root. So their energy needs are totally different. So as their energy needs are different, their support system is different. We have different kind of tissues in the plants as well as in the animals. So basically when we concentrate, we have to concentrate with respect to the movement as well as with respect to the energy needs that are there. Moving further, we will be seeing here about the classification. I have just kept an outline of classification for your reference. We have studied this earlier. This is about the animal classification, animal tissue classification. So when we have an animal tissue classification, we are having four major types of tissues. We are having four major types of tissues. The first one, which is the protective one, that is the epithelial. Then you have the innermost one, which will be connecting all our important visceral organs and will be helping in passing of the signals and giving the information. So you're having your connective tissues over there. Finally, we have the third type, which is called as the muscular and the nervous tissue. So sum of all these four tissues will be helping in coordinating an entire animal body, will be helping in coordinating an entire human body. I've given the classification outline over here. You can take a moment to pause the video and you can just go through it. This is a more simplified one where you are having the animal tissue. The animal tissue is being classified into epithelial, connective, muscular and nervous. Epithelial, we have already studied earlier that we are having squamous, cuboidal, columnar, ciliated and the glandular. In connective, we are having the areolar, adipose, skeletal and the fluid, which has been further classified as like in fluid we are having the blood and the lymph. In skeletal, we have the bone and the cartilage. In areolar and adipose is also present. Then you are having the muscular, where you have three different kinds of muscular tissue: striated, non-striated and the cardiac. Non-striated, which is also called as the smooth, and finally the nervous one. Okay, so these are the four major type of connective tissue. These are the four major types of connective tissue, the tissues itself. Four major types of tissues. So you have epithelial, nervous, muscular and the connective. Our focus over here today will be on talking about the connective tissue. As the name itself suggests, when we talk with respect to connective tissue, as the name itself suggests, what is its major role? So the major role is connecting. Major role is connective. We have a lot of visceral organs. We have a lot of internal organs that are well protected inside our body cavity, and these internal organs are being well placed inside the body cavity, as well as they are signaling the other organs also, so that our body can coordinatively function and do a work in an efficient manner. So for the proper functioning of the body as well as for the support and placing of the organs, what do we have? We have the connective tissues. What are we having? We are having the connective tissues. So let's have a look at the connective tissue. The connective tissues, they are the cells. They are the cells of the tissue which are loosely packed and are embedded in an intracellular matrix. Intracellular matrix. What's a matrix? So matrix is a fluid or a jelly-like substance or a little bit more dense-like substance in which the cells will be present. So how are we classifying the connective tissue? The classification of the connective tissue is based on the medium, based on the matrix in which a particular cell is being observed. Point number one to be noted. Okay, so how are we classifying the connective tissue? Classification of the connective tissue is based on where the cell is embedded in the matrix. In what type of matrix is the cell embedded? So as I stated, either it can be in a fluid or a jelly-like structure, or it can be in a more dense structure. So that's how the connective tissues are located inside our body. So having a look at the connective tissue, as stated earlier, the matrix may be jelly-like, fluid, dense or rigid. The matrix may be jelly-like, fluid, dense or rigid, in which the cells are present, in which the connective cells are present. The nature of the matrix differs in accordance with the function of the particular connective tissue. So we have different kind of connective tissue. Based on what are we classifying it? Based on the presence of the matrix. What type of matrix is present? I am emphasizing more on it because that's a key point and you have to remember it. Since MCQ and everything is there, you have to focus a little bit on that. So you have fluid type of matrix, you have dense type of matrix, or you may be having a rigid type of matrix. Having a look over here about the different connective tissue, and overall idea has been given. So you are having the loose connective tissue, you have the adipose connective tissue, blood, bone, cartilage, and the fibrous connective tissue. These are the different kind of connective tissue. We start with our first type of connective tissue, wherein we are having the blood. We are having the blood. Anytime if we have just not being very lucky, we have gone to a lab to take the blood sample. If a large quantity of blood is being taken and it's taken in a vial or a vial and it's kept for some period of time on the table, if you have observed it, you might be seeing that the blood would be getting settled. The blood would be getting settled. In the vial, you can see a clear straw colored liquid, and at the bottom of the vial you will be seeing the jam like structure, a jelly like structure would be present. What's happening over here? So when we draw blood from our body and keep it in a resting position for some time, because of the action of gravity as well as because of the density that is there, you will be having two clear layers inside the vial. You'll be having two clear layers inside the vial. What's the first layer? The first straw color layer, that is the pale yellow color layer, is actually the liquid part of the blood, which is called as the plasma. That's the liquid part of the blood that's called as the plasma. So you have plasma. On the top you will be having plasma. At the bottom what you will be having? As I said earlier, you will be having a jelly-like or a jam-like structure where you are having all the different kind of cells that are present. Your RBC, WBC, platelets, everything play a role over here. So all these things, since they are heavy, they would be getting settled down inside the vial. So in a test tube or in a vial, what are you having? On the top, you are having a pale yellow color, straw colored liquid, which is called as the plasma. And then at the bottom, you will be having the solid structure, jelly-like structure, in which the RBC, WBC and the platelets would be there. What's the role? Now, plasma, since it is liquid in nature, it carries different things. You can see, have a look over here. The major amount of water that's present in our blood is present in the form of plasma. So in plasma, what do we find? We find a large amount of water. Apart from water, the main gas, that is the carbon dioxide, is carried with the help of the plasma. I said carbon dioxide because remember, we have another component over here that's called as an RBC, which is our red blood cells that has hemoglobin, and hemoglobin has the ability, it is having only the ability to transport the oxygen molecule. So oxygen is transported with the help of RBC, while carbon dioxide is transported with the help of plasma. Major difference. Okay, so just remember that it's not that carbon dioxide is transported with the help of the RBC. Okay, it's only oxygen that has been carried with the help of RBC. Carbon dioxide is carried with the help of the plasma. Apart from that, proteins, hormones, some other type of gases and signaling molecules are also carried with the help of the plasma. So you have a major role played over here. We also know about some serious illness where plasma is required. So we go for a plasma transfusion too. You can understand what's the importance over here. Okay, so since there are different kind of ions that are present, water that is present, gases, minerals are present, we need plasma. Talking about the second part of the blood where you have the solids. So solids is RBC, WBC and the platelets. We told about RBC. So RBC, red blood cells, They have hemoglobin, they will be carrying the oxygen. That's the role about the RBC. 120 days fixed lifespan. After that, apoptosis, natural death of the RBC will be taking place. Finally, when we come to the next part, you are having the platelets that are there. Platelets. Platelets are totally irregular structures. They are totally irregular structures. And the moment we are having a wound, we are having a cut, the blood will be oozing out. From the blood, in the blood, we have the platelets that comes in contact with the air pressure, and then it bursts. It will be bursting, just like how we touch a bubble, a soap bubble. Okay, when we touch it, what will happen? It will burst. In the same manner, the platelets will burst, and they will be helping in the blood clotting procedure. They help in the blood clotting procedure. From now, here we have the second major component. I discussed RBC, I discussed platelets. Now I come to the third major component, that is the WBC, white blood cells. We have big class of WBCs. So WBCs, they are very huge in number, and we know that they play a major role in fighting different pathogens that are there. Having a look further, WBC, I'll be just classifying that in the next slide. Before that, I'll just read out this content. That's your textbook content itself. So blood has a fluid, that is the liquid matrix. So blood is called as the liquid connective tissue. Blood has a fluid, that is the liquid matrix, called as the plasma, in which RBC, WBC and platelets are suspended. The plasma contains proteins, salts and hormones. Blood flows and transport gases, digested food, hormones and waste materials to different parts of the body. Do read the textbook. Okay, now this is the diagram. This is the picture that you have in your textbook. Okay, the same picture, but in a more different manner I have just represented over here. So if I just give you a minute, you will be pausing the video and you will just try to see what's the major difference in this group. What is the observation that you can make in this group of cells, this group of WBC? Pause the video and just check. Okay, if you have done so, I don't know how many of you have got the answer, but have a look at the nucleus. You will be noting that the nucleus of all the different kind of WBC that they have mentioned is different. That's how you identify the WBC. Because when a smear of blood is given to you, a slide has been given to you to observe under the microscope, and you have been asked to identify what kind of WBC it is. Everything will be white in color. You won't be able to identify what it is. So based on the nucleus shape, based on the shape of the nucleus, as well as relatively the size of the cell, you will be able to identify and say whether the WBC is a neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, lymphocyte, monocyte. Okay, so what are these? These are the different names of the WBC. What are they? Monocyte, lymphocyte, neutrophil, eosinophil and basophil. These are the different types of WBC. If you have any blood reports at your home, you can just go through the blood reports that are there. In that, if anybody in your family is having a cough infection or some other respiratory infection, you can check the data that they are given. They might have mentioned about the number of basophil, eosinophil. The number might be going high than the normal. So whenever we have such infections in our body, it's normally the eosinophils and the basophils that would be coming at the front line, and they would be working to eradicate all the different pathogens that are there. Okay, so what do you have to remember over here? The different names of the WBC. So what are the names of the WBC? Neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil. Then you have the monocyte. Monocytes are actually two: small monocyte, large monocytes, and lymphocytes are also like that. It's a small and large based on the size. So you just need to remember monocytes and lymphocytes right now, and the three different names: neutrophil, eosinophils and the basophils. Okay, so that's about the blood. Now we move to the next slide, just to give you an idea about the shape size difference. You can see macrophage, how huge it is. It's having an amoeboid body. All the WBCs normally have an amoeboid body so that they can crawl to the site of infection, kill the pathogen and feed upon them. So this is neutrophil. You can see the monocyte, lymphocyte, and see the shape difference in the basophil, eosinophil, and see about the platelets. Okay, so that's about the blood. I'll just say one thing with respect to blood itself. From blood, at the place of high pressure, little amount of plasma will be oozing out within our body itself. Little amount of plasma will be oozing out, but in that RBCs are not present, only WBC will be present. So that fluid is pale yellow in color. It's pale yellow in color, which will be forming the lymph. That will be forming the lymph. This is what explained over here. Lymph. So lymph is what? Lymph is a derivative from the blood itself, but it is lacking RBC. It is lacking RBC. Lymph is also liquid which rotates in our body. It helps in maintaining the blood volume. You know, whenever we fall sick, we have some kind of infection. Normally, if we are having cold, we will be having tonsils, tonsillitis, swelling. Or you can observe that under our armpits or near our thigh area, there might be some swellings that are there. Those are the lymph nodes. What are they? They are the lymph nodes where active lymphocytes will be present, and they are actually working very hard to remove the pathogen. So whenever our body is in danger, whenever we are having an infection, you can see some swellings taking place in our body. These swellings are actually lymph node swellings, infection swellings that are there. So lymph is a derivative from the blood. Since it's not there in the NCERT, I have not included here in the slide, but you must be knowing about it. So we have two different types of connective tissue. One is the blood and the second one is lymph. Remember, lymph is a derivative from the blood which is lacking RBC. That's why it is pale yellow in color. It is pale yellow in color. Okay, we move further and we now come to the strongest connective tissue, which is not flexible. That's the bone. That's a bone. So bone is the supportive connective tissue. What's the bone? Bone is the supportive connective tissue. Your diagram that's there in your textbook. Okay, now what is the thing that you have to focus over here in bone is, we know that bones, teeth strong, we need what? We need ions. It's basically calcium and phosphorus that we need to build up the bones. Have you ever experienced a cracking bone anytime, like when we are child, or like in our younger ages, when we normally play, we normally get one fracture or the other. If you have not got one, you're very very lucky enough. Now, a bone fracture, the pain is really very severe. It's really very very severe. Okay, now if we have a look at the bone, we feel that the bone might not be having blood supply. The bone might be not having any like neural impulse, nerve supply also. But that's completely false. It's completely false. We have supply. We have blood supply to the bone. We have nerve supply to the bone. Okay, so what is this connection through? So this connection is through the Havrasian canal. It's through the Havrasian canal. So what is this Havrasian canal role? Havrasian canal, it contains the blood vessels and the nerve fibers that will be signaling our bone, that will be nourishing our bone, that will be signaling our bone, as well as that will be nourishing our bone. Now the bone cells that are there, they are called as the osteocytes. What are bone cells called as? Osteocytes. Having a look at the osteocytes, this is a structure of the osteocytes. So having a look at the osteocytes are having slender processes that are there. They have slender processes. Like how do we have the arms of the stars coming out? In the same manner, slender processes are there, and this slender processes occupy a region, and that region is called as the canaliculus. They are called as the canaliculus. Okay, so here you will be seeing that there are canaliculus as well as the Havrasian canal that is present. Okay, this is the picture that you can just take a moment to zoom into and see, but the focus will be there with respect to only three: Havrasian canal, osteocytes, and the canaliculus. Okay, so bone is another example of the connective tissue. It forms the framework that supports the body. It also anchors the muscles and supports the main organ of the body. It is strong and non-flexible. Bone cells are embedded in hard matrix that is composed of calcium and phosphorus compounds. Okay, moving further, now we have something that's helping our bone as well as helping our body to move, helping our bone or helping our body to move. See, when we jump from a great height, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of tension over our heel area. It's heel area will be having a lot of tension and pressure. Okay, most football players also, as they play, they come up with some injuries in their legs. The most common injury that you people might be hearing is about the ligament injury. It's about the ligament injury. So what's a ligament? Ligament is a type of dense connective tissue. Ligament is a type of dense connective tissue that will be connecting bone to bone. That will be connecting bone to bone. L for ligament. L for ligament. L. 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 Bone in Malayalam L. So L for ligament L. So ligament is connecting L to L. So it's connecting bone to bone. Okay. On the contrary, we are having tendon. What's tendon? So tendon is again a dense connective tissue, but it is connecting a muscle to a bone. It's connecting a muscle to a bone. You tear a tendon of a chicken leg. What are you doing? You're tearing a tendon of a chicken leg. So that's different. That's how you can remember it very easily. Now let's see about the strength and the properties of the ligament and the tendon. So ligament, it connects bone to bone. The tissue is very elastic while it's having a considerable strength. So ligament contains very little matrix. On the contrary, you are having the tendons. What are tendons doing? Tendons are connecting the muscles to the bones. Tendons are fibrous tissue with great strength and limited flexibility. The flexibility is relatively limited over here. So that's how you can see the position. This is the tendon, that is the muscle and the bone, and you can see the ligament that is there, L to L. So that is bone to bone. Okay. Now, the bones that are there, like for example at our kneecaps, okay, the kneecaps are so smooth. Just imagine if we were having correct bone over here and you will get a hit on the wall. Won't that be very painful? It would be, okay, but since we have a covering over it, and what's that covering made up of? That covering is made up of cartilage, which is making it relatively smooth. It's making it relatively smooth. So a little bit of tension, a little bit of jerk that is there, it's actually withstanded by cartilage. And because of cartilage, actually we are able to fold our ears. Even the nose is a little bit flexible. Because of what? Because of cartilage. So cartilage is a supportive connective tissue. What's the cartilage? Cartilage is a supportive connective tissue. Thus, another type of connective tissue is the cartilage that has widely spaced cells. The solid matrix is composed of proteins and sugars. So here you can note that the matrix that is there, it contains proteins and sugars are also present. Cartilage smoothens the bone surface at the joints and is also present in the nose, ear, trachea and the larynx. So entire respiratory system, we are having the presence of the cartilage. Moving from cartilage to the next type of connective tissue, areolar connective tissue. Like we had our parenchyma in the plant cell, which is present everywhere. So wherever packaging is needed, you put up the parenchyma. In the same manner, wherever support is needed, you are putting up the areolar connective tissue. A good thing about the areolar connective tissue is having the dual role that is there. It helps in fighting the infections also, as well as it gives a supportive role also. How? Why? So you will be seeing that there are cells like plasma cells, mast cells, and you are having macrophage, and you are having fibroblast. Okay, so macrophage, fibroblast, mast cell, plasma cells, what are they all doing? So one or the other way, they are actually trying to fight the germ infection. They are actually trying to fight the germ infection that is there. Especially when we have a look at the plasma cells, which is actually a derivative from the lymphocytes, beta lymphocytes, they produce antibodies. Mast cells, they fight the infections. Then you are having the macrophages, which are very huge cells with amoeboid structures. So they also kill the pathogens. You're having this collagen fiber. It's actually a fiber which helps in elasticity. So you might be noticing many of our superstars, they are still young even though they are old. How are they so? Is because they put on fillers. They put on collagen fillers, which will be bringing out elasticity in the skin, which will be bringing out youthfulness in the skin. So collagen is needed for skin elasticity. You have the reticular mesh like structure, so it is giving support that is there. And you are having the fibroblast again. They are cells that are there, and they also give support in nature. So areolar connective tissue is found between the skin and the muscles. around the blood vessels and the nerves and in the bone marrow. It fills the space inside the organs, supports internal organs, and helps in repair of the tissue. Okay, that's the role about the areolar connective tissue. And then finally we have the adipose tissue. Adipose tissue, adipocytes, in which fat are stored. Fat droplets are stored. Fat globules are stored. Okay, so what do? They insulate the body and protect the body. Insulate the body, thus we are able to maintain a constant body temperature and protect the body because it's soft and cushioning, so it's giving protection. So fat storing adipose tissues is found below the skin between the internal organs. The cells of this tissue are filled with fat globules. Storage of fat also let it act as an insulator. Okay, so with this we end up with the connective tissue. Things to do: read the textbook, practice the diagrams, be familiar with all the diagrams for identification as well as for labeling. Have a in-hand drawing practice too. Okay, that's all. In case of any difficulty, you can clear up during the live sessions. Okay, thank you all.